Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you're playing characters Mannix, Kales, Gillian, George, or Theron, abandon all hope, for you cannot enter here, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. You can catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. If you would like to support the channel, check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons Andrew, Richard, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Crazy Pat, Nick, and Rivzung, and gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy Numa, Marco Stead, Vicente, Gilberto, Sean, aka Cert2B, Adam, Dead Lizard Lounge, and Sam. Thank you all for your support for our campaign. We use Roll20.net for streaming. I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. Shout out to new silver patron Robert. Welcome aboard. Thank you for your patronage. Hello, Crazy Pat, and thank you again for your very sweet, nice message on Discord about the patron situation. Under no circumstances are patrons required to explain any of their pledges or changes or anything of that nature. I am very humbled and pleased with all of the support that I get, and I do appreciate the conversations and the candid nature in which we can talk about that thing. So that is pretty cool. And that's a good use of the Discord, I'd say, too, because I am there to be chatted with as well as others. So we need to talk a little bit about the dragon fight in Wormheart Mine, but I really need to spend most of my time in Crafting Annihilation prepping for our next session. Usually Crafting Annihilation is kind of one part post-mortem on last week's session and then one part prep, usually half and half. I really need to not try to... And the post-mortem is really fun because that's a chance for everybody to kind of talk, and I can say like what worked and what didn't and all that, and I enjoy that immensely, but I have a lot of prep work that I need to do because I have plans for Harak Hamar, as well as getting to Harak Hamar. Hello, Wonder. Glad you could make it to the stream. So, I anticipated the dragon fight taking up a full session, and it went pretty similarly to how I expected, although the dragon got her ass kicked a little bit harder than I anticipated. I was hoping this would be a little more of a deadly fight for the players, given it is a CR10 straight-up dragon fight. And the players did bungle things quite a bit. They didn't really have a good strategy for approaching the dragon. I guess they tried a few things, but I don't know. I don't think they really tried hard enough in terms of scouting and trying to manipulate the battlefield or the situation to their advantage. At one point, Kales failed a save going down this way, and then Mannix and Gillian were both kind of just trotting down this cave. And I don't know if maybe players just forget they have light sources on, but like if you walk down a cave and you're carrying or a magical light spell or something, and it's mostly dark around you, you are a giant beacon, and I'm straight up not going to let people stealth near you, as well as you're going to alert, any monster in the area. So that was kind of dumb on their part, frankly. They explored a little bit, and I kind of let them. I wasn't going to necessarily put them immediately into this combat situation. I wanted them to feel out this area. I kind of waved them off going north to this tunnel, and just mentioned that it just kind of extends for a long time. I don't think they quite realized how that works until I think I reminded them, like, yeah, you remember there is a tunnel that connects to Harak Hamar, but it would be miles. It's not something you can actually, trot down in the middle of this dungeon. Hello, 67 KND. They saw the Quippers in there, which was kind of funny. They were interested in the water flow. Eventually, I had to get them involved with the dragon, which they did. I pulled off the minecart thing at the end of the first round because I thought that was kind of the exciting thing to happen. It worked out really well that they actually fought in this tiny choke point, which I thought was going to be devastating for the players. And George actually ran up here to the minecart track, because my first worry was, oh no, all the players are off the mine track, so when Hugh comes in, it's not really going to be a big deal. Thankfully, George was there, so he kind of created that cool story moment of having somebody at least witness you come careening down and then crash into the minecarts, and the minecarts actually crashed into George. I swear that minecart did as much damage to George as the dragon did to everybody else. Yes, I did let them get this water thing off first. I could have been a stickler about that. But they were kind of prepping a little bit, like they knew a dragon was in there, so I gave them like the one chance to at least cast that spell before things went down, and the dragon was very clearly telegraphing, going around the corner. So that ended up being a big deal. The other thing that happened, okay, two things that happened that made this fight a lot easier than what I was expecting. I expected them to use the water thing, because they tried to use it during the ship battle and didn't have a chance to. Everybody made the save. I think literally everybody made. It's a DC 17 deck save. That is not a gimme by any means. And they all surprisingly made that save. So automatically you're halving the fire damage from 50 to 25, whatever it was. And then that water wall halved it again. So now a 50 damage fire breath is now only doing like 12 damage. That's a big deal. I think Celeste ended up taking a little bit more because she was out in front. But it was worth it because Celeste crit on her opening round. So the other problem, A, they made the save, and B, I rolled a freaking 2 on my initiative. Ah, dang it. Which means there was no surprise round, so every single PC got to have a round before I could do anything. And unfortunately, that makes Celeste even stronger because she is an assassin rogue, so she gets advantage if she goes before the enemy does. And then she crits and does like 40-some damage, which is bananas. So all of a sudden, I'm slack-jawed, just staring at my dragon's hit points. By the time the dragon gets to go, I think it was at like half health or something. So I'm like, oh no. And at that point, I was immediately like, all right, let's bring in Hugh and the other kobolds and kind of make this fight a little more interesting, because I'm now worried you guys are going to just wipe the floor with my dragon. And yes, I could have had it fly. Unfortunately, it couldn't really take advantage of its flight too much because it is a cave area. I did have it when it saw the player. It wasn't going to jump up and fly and go in, super firebomb mode, but I had to just walk around the corner. It laid the fire breath down. I did have it then fly away, which unfortunately then had the opportunity attacks hit it. That did lead to some really fun moments, though. As frustrating as it was for the dragons, power level not being great. And this is a problem with a lot of D&D action economy, is if you have a large, cool monster, unless you have legendary actions, you're still only going once versus the players 4, 5, or 6 times. There's just no way anything's going to keep up with that. Like, at best, I mean, even with multi-attacks, you're still only going that one time. And if the players have anything that can trip you up or cause you to lose a turn or do something, that's even more devastating. So it helps having minions. Well, of course, they fought their way through all the minions. I did add some minions with the kobolds, but they weren't really a factor in the dragon fight. I did really, really love the cinematic moment of Theron, like, jumping and attacking the dragon. And this is, again, it's very difficult to kind of visualize, okay, how... I hate it when D&D starts becoming an algebra problem. How high is the dragon? How tall is an Allosaurus? How far can an Allosaurus jump? All that. My solution is it cool? If it's cool, it's probably going to happen. With some roll. It's going to require you to make some rolls. You don't automatically get to do things. But essentially, I let him grapple in the same move that he is attacking with. And that was an even easier choice to make because I believe Theron crit on that attack. Second crit of the fight was also devastating because Theron Allosaurus can do a lot of damage. So their DPS is in there just beating on this dragon. Even if, like, Gillian's only doing her shatter spell, which is like 10 damage, and George is not even in that fight. He's off fighting the kobolds. So, and of course, Mannix is always a weird X factor in any fight. So it was basically just Theron and Celeste alone fighting this dragon, and they were just kicking its ass. But I really loved that kind of Monster Hunter cinematic moment of just an Allosaurus fighting a dragon, and then Celeste like running up the Allosaurus's back and being able to melee the like all of that just felt really, really cool and awesome, and I wanted that to happen. I did have the dragon attack them. It had enough hit points to fend them off. It was going to disengage and fly away. I could have escaped with the dragon. If you go back on the stream, I believe Mannix does about 30 or 31 damage, and if you see here, she's got 37 health left. So I could have had him do that damage and her leave with just no hit points. But honestly, at that point, as fun as it is to have reoccurring villains, I was kind of disappointed in the way the dragon fight played out, and part of that was because the players did have some forewarning about the dragon and all that. But I'd kind of used the dragon already with the ship fight, and they'd fought her down here, and clearly they were powerful enough to handle her. So I was like, you know what? I'm okay with actually just, you came in here to kill the dragon. Let's actually go ahead and wrap this up, and that way it's not, I mean, a question of like you've solved this quest essentially. So I let essentially Mannix get the kill there with his wand of magic mints as the dragon was fleeing, which is really funny because he was hardly in that fight, and of course Kales and Theron were doing all the work, and he actually got the kill for it. So they took down a CR10 dragon because of and really as much of a straight up fight as I can think of. Just the power of crits, I think, the power of out of the box thinking, the power of a dragon not being able to necessarily fly out of range, fly in and out of range like it could normally, like it did in the ship fight, and just super powerful PCs, you know, taking full advantage of their powers. So on the one hand, I was disappointed with how relatively easy it went. And if you look at the PCs, they're all very damaged and wounded here, but they were also all very damaged and wounded going into this fight. Everybody's at like 50% health. They didn't even short rest throughout this whole dungeon. It's all been on one rest, so I've really been draining them as much as I could. I thought I took Kales down, but of course she could use Uncanny Dodge to survive. But everybody is at like, what, 20%, except for the stupid Theron and his infinite temporary hit points with wild saves. Golly. But everybody got really, really low, but I couldn't actually take anybody down in this fight. So I was a little disappointed with the fact that I couldn't even take down one PC with the dragon fight. On the other hand, it was a lot of fun. We all had fun doing it, and it ended up being a really enjoyable, cinematic, memorable fight, I think, too. So memorable, in fact, that a fan of the show, Jason, sent in a poem written specifically an ode to one of our PCs. I'll give you one guess as to whom. That I will share and read with everybody during our Friday session. But it even includes the events of this battle, which is absolutely amazing. I appreciate very much any and all like fan art or writing or what have you. Absolutely send that stuff, share that stuff. I love it to death, and I will share it on our show stream, which is fantastic. Hello, sir. I see you. So yeah, that was the dragon fight. They got a nice dragon horde out of it, like so many coins. We don't do encumbrance, and coins are just kind of whatever. But at this point, too, in their career, or sorry, in the campaign, I don't think they have any opportunity to actually buy anything with their money. Like they're basically going from here, Hrakamar, and then going to Omu, and then Omu enters into the I guess the end game, although it's actually a pretty long, like that's half the book from Omu, Fane of the Night Serpent, and then Tomb of Annihilation is insane mega dungeon. So it's a very, very long end game, but there's no like towns or merchants or anything in the way there. So they've already got all this money. They could just say, you know, piss off and retire with this much money. But such is the weird life of an adventurer, where I don't really have a good money sink solution other than a random traveling merchant in Cholt, which would feel pretty funny. Like, hey, I've got 37 health potions if you guys want to buy with your gold. What am I doing in the middle of the jungle? I'm glad you asked. I did, if you notice, I still used the +1 magic weapon bob, which can bob on water, float on water, I guess. It's buoyant. But I changed it to a rapier. That is an obvious case of nobody in my party uses battle axes. And I believe, even though Kales is already crazy strong enough, she actually was not using... She was one of the few PCs not using a magic weapon, even though she was combat-focused. So she had a Venom Dagger, but she was still using the Rapier mainly because that did more damage, so I went ahead and just gave her a magic... I turned the +1 Battle Axe into just a +1 Rapier, so that was a very easy fix, and I figure a Dragon Horde should be worth at least one magic item, so... It was pretty easy to make. And at this point, I will let them long rest in this dungeon because they have completely cleared it out. The few remaining kobolds will have fled. The dragon is dead. They will get a long rest here, even though it's only been, you know, maybe half a day or something at best. But, you know, at some point they can spend the day going over the loot, going up and getting Musharib, I can hand wave that and be like, all right, you spend the rest of the day doing this, this, this. You can still long rest here if you want before continuing down the tunnel. I will let them do that. It feels weird to go through a dungeon never short resting, but that's kind of the path they took, and that's kind of the way this dungeon works. You get on a ride and you just kind of go down and down and down and experience everything all at once, which made it challenging. That was actually a lot of fun and drained them of their resources. And because they made a lot of noise, they couldn't even short rest before fighting the dragon, and yet they still persevered without me killing anybody, which is bananas. Stupid players. I have an undead merchant that doesn't know he's undead. Ha! That's great. That's like the Divinity world. It's a whole faction. Like the undead are like just sentient, and they're obviously treated pretty badly by people, but they're just undead. And they're straight up like undead merchants and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna go to Hrakamar next. And this is where I need to do some prep work, because I don't want to just... I just thought I could turn this fucking dragon into like a Draco Lich. Well, it'd be a zombie dragon, I guess. It wouldn't be a Draco Lich. Technically a zombie dragon. I mean, I could make it a Draco Lich. If they don't act, because I'm assuming at this point everybody's got Walking Dead rules where they just go along and stab everything in the head in order to kill it. But you can argue that nobody went and took down the dragon or something. But maybe they will. I don't know. And that's just something funny I could do, is have this skeletal dragon come after them in a vengeance. That might be interesting. An undead dragon. Is there a stat block for an undead dragon somewhere? I think Draco Lich is probably the only one, which isn't, I don't think, entirely would be entirely appropriate here, because I think that's kind of like liches, which it's not. It's less about turning things into just random undead and more about like zombies being raised. Plus, I think Draco Liches are pretty strong, which I have no problem doing, because now that things have escalated, now that I know the players can take down a freaking young dragon, I will feel emboldened to do more things. I'm not seeing... God, there's so many dragons. There's so many dragons in Dungeons & Dragons. That's crazy. Draco Lich, there we go. Oh, the only stat block is an adult blue Draco Lich. Ooh, CR17. Yeah, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Only an ancient or adult true dragon can be transformed into a Draco Lich. Younger dragons that attempt to undergo the transformation die. Well, it wouldn't be a Draco Lich, it'd just be a zombie dragon. Which I could turn that into its own like unique stat block. I'd pretty much... So, I think the rule for making something a zombie is basically give it undead fortitude, lower its armor class, maybe raise its hit points, lower its speed, give it immunity to like necrotic and poison damage. And that's pretty much the rule for that, I think. Zombie dragon. But my plans for Resident Evil merchant. Just have an undead merchant chilling somewhere. My only worry about ever putting a random merchant somewhere is like, what's going to stop the players from just murdering that merchant and taking their things? Like, you would hope the answer would be like morality, but if they're undead, that might put some questions on like, well, wait, why don't we just murder you? Take all your stuff. You're already dead. So, the tunnel between Wormheart Mine and Hrakamar extends for 40 miles. And is passable. The rail cart tracks are intact for the full length, but encounters with carrion crawlers and giant spiders are guaranteed. The albino dwarves know where the tunnel leads, but are quick to warn characters about the red dragon that's taken over Wormheart Mine. That's if they go from Hrakamar to Wormheart Mine. So, I could hand wave that and say, okay, you spend, 3 days traveling underground in the tunnel. But I'm leaning towards turning this into a series of encounters. Now, as I mentioned in the jungle crawl portion, I don't really want to do a whole lot of random encounters for the sake of random encounters. I think it just slows the game down, and we've done most of what I want to see in the jungle. However, this one will serve two purposes. One, we haven't really done underground random encounters, which has a slew of different situations, hazards, and monsters. And 2, this could help drain their resources for the next dungeon, because I would not let them long rest during this expedition. I would, even though they have their stupid tiny hut of DM aggravatingness. What am I trying to say? Annoyance. Aggra-annoyance. I think it is a 10-foot radius, and I would rule that if they can't put that hut, if they don't have room for the hut, then they can't use the hut. And therefore, if they can't use the hut, they cannot properly long rest. It would be the same rules we had like in the jungle. If you're in a dangerous spot, in hostile territory, then you can short rest, but not long rest. Especially because I'm letting them long rest here. I think if I didn't let them long rest here, they would balk at that, justifiably so. But I'm going to let them long rest here, essentially at the beginning of tomorrow's session. They'll be fully everythinged, but then once they begin this journey, then it's short rests only until essentially they complete Hrakamar and leave this whole underground dwarven fortress behind. I think that's how I'm going to balance it, which means any encounters along the... Because normally, otherwise, the encounters on the way don't really matter, because they just heal up, long rest, and it doesn't really matter, I mean, it matters, I guess, but it only matters if I take somebody down, because then they have a lingering injury or something. Otherwise, they just completely heal up from a long rest. So the only way you can make these little encounters matter is if you only let them short rest, and thus they have to start realizing, oh, this is actually like part of the dungeon crawl, and we can't long rest down here. Zombies falling out of the ceiling. So I purchased a map pack on Roll20. Gabriel Picard is still probably my favorite map designer on Roll20, so I purchased their Save vs. Cave Mines 1 pack, which has a couple like prefabricated minecart maps, which are absolutely perfect, as well as building blocks for making your own minecart cave path, which is really interesting. I realize it's probably not showing up too well on my overlay. Let me get it not blocked. But it's got a lot in there too. This seems like a really good path. Like several maps plus all the pieces to build your own map. It was like, hell yeah, sold. Even if this is the only time I'm going to use it. Like, I still plan on playing on Roll20 for the foreseeable future. It's got good looking minecarts too. So yeah, I really like the look of this one, and I think I'm going to use one of these maps and kind of turn it into a battle map, maybe even a series of battle maps. I'm leery about feature creep here, of like creating my own dungeon in the middle of 2 dungeons. Yo dog, I hear you like dungeons, so I put dungeons in your dungeons. That's not really my intention, because Hrakamar is a neat dungeon in of itself. It's just, it doesn't have a lot going on. It's basically just a bunch of fire newts have taken over the forge. It's a neat looking area, but it doesn't have like a lot of traps or puzzles or things like that. I actually need to read more about Hrakamar as part of my prep work, but it's just, and essentially it's one of those where it's very easy to just activate almost the entire dungeon when you walk in. You just fight like because they're all just a bunch of sentient humanoid creatures that have just taken over and moved in. So let's take a look at what I'm thinking about doing here. So this is one of the minecart maps, for example. I think this is the right ratio of size. It's kind of up to me on... I'm not sure what all these poles are supposed to be here. But because the tunnel is not supposed to be more than like 10 feet wide where the mine track is, I tried to kind of recreate that in here. I basically want to make sure there's no spot where they could set up the hut, which I think is good. This one has the minecart track. It does say it is intact. And then these are like little side offshoots. And I need to start coming up with, okay, what are some good, interesting encounters I can use? This one is a little interesting because this particular map, the players can just stay on the main path and literally just go north. So I have to create some incentive for them to go off the beaten path, or create some dangers that pop out of these paths and then go after the players. The other map which looks pretty interesting. And I could use multiple maps. We could have a. I don't want to bog down too much. I want to get them to Hrakamar. I think at least by the end of next session, if not sooner. And obviously, the more combat encounters I create, the more that's going to slow things down. The one cool idea I had. Let's actually just. Let's just create another map. I'll keep that one on there for now. And I still haven't determined like what monsters or anything in there either. This one, which I could build my own, but I like the look of some of these, would be this direction, I think. And this one looks cool because I haven't had to do this in a while, by the way. Not since Orlunga have I had to actually like make my own maps and dungeons. I do like doing it. It's just obviously very time consuming and takes time away from like me writing the things out. So what I like about this one is it connects. So I can zoom out a little bit more. It's got this cool winding tunnel that goes off the beaten path, but then connects back around to it. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to block the path, do the classic like. The obvious way forward is blocked, and the only way you can go is this side path that looks super creepy and sketchy. Definitely do that, because I think that could be a lot of fun. Even though it says the minecart track is open the whole way, just create kind of a recent blockage maybe, and then that forces the players to then go around through these winding tunnels where all kinds of bad shit can happen until they get back onto the right path. So I think that could be pretty fun. And this would be more of a case of like I'm not really literally maybe going map to map, but it's like, hey, this is how you go through one day and there's a hostile section, and then this is like the next day you come up and there's a blocked path, and then you have to go around, that kind of thing. The one cool thing I was thinking of was it says giant spiders are guaranteed. I giant spiders are very played out in D&D. In a lot of adventures we fought plenty. It's a cool classic trope of like you walk in, there's a bunch of webs, everybody's like, oh shit, high alert, there's spiders. I thought would be a cool twist here is if the players have to go through here, there's webbing everywhere webbing. At some point, they get deeper and deeper, and there's more and more webs. And there's zombies, like, trapped in all the webs, or some of them are free, stumbling around, and they have to fight a couple of these zombies as they go. But what happened was, and maybe they're like kobold zombies, they were the kobolds that were in here. The spiders killed the zombies. Spiders killed kobolds or whatever, humanoids, dwarves or something. And then when the death curse turned on, those dead, some cocooned and some just desiccated, whatever, rose as zombies. And then the zombies then attacked and eventually overwhelmed the spiders. And then the spiders rise as zombies. Because I have put that in as a thing where, unlike some zombie universes, probably most zombie universes, beasts come back as undead as well. I think one of the few ones I saw that did this was Train to Busan, a really, really good South Korean zombie movie. It's on Netflix, by the way. Really, really fantastic movie. I love that movie to death. That, I think, does it. It's not really a thing. It's like in the prologue you like see... it's not really spoiler because it's literally like the first minute of the movie or something. Like a deer gets run over and then it comes back as like a zombie, and that's like, oh shit, that's how you know it's starting. But most zombie fiction tends to only affect humans. In fact, I think in The Walking Dead, I'm really going off on a rant here now. In the Dawn of the Dead remake, the one with the mall, the Zack Snyder one, they actually at one point don't they lower a dog into like the zombie mass so that the dog can like send messages and stuff, because zombies literally don't even target animals for some weird reason in that movie. Whereas Walking Dead, zombies definitely eat animals. So in this universe, though, beasts, like everything, can come back as a zombie. They're not necessarily raised as intelligent undead, but they're just kind of zombified. Which I think zombified, you can zombify anything. As a DM, I'm empowered to zombify anything. And I was looking in the monster manual, they had only... two real examples to look at. There was a zombie beholder and an ogre zombie. And then Tomb of Annihilation has the gorillan zombie and ankylosaurus zombie. And it looks like the way you zombify something, as I mentioned earlier with the dragon, is you give them immunity to poison, you lower their armor class because you're lowering their dexterity, so their armor class, goes down. You raise their hit points, and you give them the undead fortitude ability. As far as I know, their actual offensive capabilities should stay the same. So I think just undead, and that will solve the purpose of undead will fight until slain instead of beasts, which will retreat intelligently when things go bad. And B, that means the druid can't like talk to them or talk them out, which actually hasn't happened in a while, where he's been able to use his druid powers. But in this case, it would be all undead would prevent that. Where's Ankylosaurus? Almirage, Aldani, Albino Dwarf. There's a lot of A's. A Serac. Oh, it must be under dinosaur then. Ankylus. Nope, it's not in here. Is Ankylosaurus in the monster manual then? Yeah, it must be. I'm looking at that Tomb of Annihilation book. You're not a real DM unless you have like 4 open books on your desk when you're planning. Let's see. D for dinosaur. It is. Yes, it's in the monster manual. Okay. So what is the difference between AC -1? No, hit points are the same here though. Why? This for some reason the ogre zombie has a lot more hit points than a regular zombie. But here it's got. Oh, and the zombie is slower also by a good 10 feet. So less dexterity. Physical stat. Well, strength and con stay the same. Your wisdom is a lot lower as a zombie. Interesting. Ankylosaurus zombie has dark vision 60 feet. And they get undead fortitude. Immunity to poison. I assume they're immunity to necrotic, but it actually doesn't say that. I don't think anybody in my party does necrotic anyway. Mutant zombie spider, yeah. What's also weird is that Tomb of Annihilation came with a a stat block for Swarm of Undead Spiders, which has literally 0 difference from Swarm of Insects. So it wasn't actually like undeadified at all. There is no difference between these 2 stat blocks from what I can see. I think it just says use the Swarm of Insects stat block. The only difference would be, I guess, their behavior, in that the spiders would be like lumbering and lurching and would, again, fight to the death instead of being scattered. But otherwise, everything still looks like it's the same. Lil Bard says, why not make it a Revenant? Why not make what a Revenant? The spider a Revenant? I don't think I've used Revenant yet, but I could. My rule is that I can't use ghost-type spirits because of the way the Soulmonger is sucking up souls, but I can use more corporeal undead, so I could use something like that. I was going to use whites for that one door that was the dead inside that they decided not to open in the mine. They just kind of skipped over it, which is fine. But I upgraded those zombies to whites. The dragon, a dragon revenant. Ooh, okay, I like that idea. So it's not. So it's still undead, but it is more intelligent. Okay, I like that idea. I'd have to combine. I'd have to really make a stat block for that. I'd have to combine a young adult dragon with a revenant concept, and then probably zombify the dragon in terms of stats. But that could be pretty interesting. A dragon would definitely come back as undead. Yeah, okay, I'm liking that idea. Where's the revenant stat block? This is something that I wouldn't. I would let some time pass though, so the players, like, they would get through this tunnel, go through Hrakamar, and then on their way out, crossing on that path to Omu, that would be a good chance for this dragon to have finally come out and been just doggedly chasing them. I think that could be pretty cool, because it can't really get to Hrakamar. Let's see, was I looking up Revenants? I don't think we've ever used a Revenant at all. Roper, Rock, Rakshasa, Remoraz. Remoraz are freaking cool looking. Revenant. It's a CR 5, AC 13, 136 hit points. So I could give it the Vengeful Glare. Yeah, like you were saying, regeneration. Jesus, it just keeps rejuvenating. That's pretty scary. How do you kill this thing? The Revenant's body is destroyed. Its soul lingers. After 24 hours, the soul inhabits and animates another corpse on the same plane of existence. Wow, I could really turn that into a fascinating reoccurring villain, couldn't I? Like, Tinder could technically, once they destroy the body completely, like, Tinder's soul could, like, inhabit other corpses. That could be really interesting. As this, like, dogged villain that keeps chasing them. Even though I also have the Steel Predator in my back pocket still. I like that idea, though. Use this reoccurring villain that really can't be killed because it's hatred so much. Vengeful Glare is pretty solid, too. DC 15 Wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the target is paralyzed until the Revenant deals damage to it or until the end of the Revenant's next turn. It's an action, though. So I guess it can use its action to try and paralyze somebody. I might have to turn that into a bonus action. It's a dragon, damn it. But yeah, I like that idea. I'm going to put a note about that. Thank you, Lonely Bard. The Soulmonger will catch that soul. No. Yeah, that's true. Damn it, Mike, you're raining on my Revenant parade. Soul lingers. Yeah. Possibly. Maybe it's a really, really strong soul. I don't know, just an idea. I can see. There's always ways to get around it. It's a strong enough soul, or it inhabits... I don't know. Maybe Gillian's brother spirit can somehow sense that this spirit is equally able to hang on to the realm because of some reason. Its hatred is so strong. Defies the Soulmonger. Or maybe it's being slowly, like, torn away. Maybe its soul is getting, like, dissipated into the Soulmonger, but it takes a couple rounds. Who knows how Dragon Souls work? Exactly. The DM smugly declares, how do you know Dragon Souls can't defy the Soulmonger? But I like the classic, my plan, at least with this map, because I really like the way, this is a very obvious way of, like, blocking a path. Like, even letting the players, like, maybe look down and see, like, oh, fuck no, we're not going that way. And then they go up and realize the path is blocked and they have to go back and, like, double around and go through that bad way. And that way just gets worse and worse, you know, real horror movie style. Things are getting bad, they're hearing noises, scribblings, they see zombies stuck in the webbing. And then at some point unleash some delicious undead spiders on them. Might have to make this map slightly bigger, though. Well, it's still 10 feet right there. Yeah, that's 10. This is getting real narrow here. 5. I mean, you could do 5 foot. That'd make it pretty creepy, wouldn't it? You're going along a tunnel. It's a 5 foot single file. I'm kind of liking that. None of these are big enough for the dome, as far as I can tell. The dome requires, it's a 10 foot radius. So that's 20 feet across. So I really don't want my players to sit there and, like, draw lines on this map and be like, well, what if we put the dome here? Like, no. No domes. What about here? No. No long rests. I'm stealing your cannot rest in the jungle idea for the Tomb of Annihilation game I'm running. Steal away. That's what we do here. Yeah, that was an important part of doing it, because that's a big problem with overland travel in general and the way D&D is balanced. And it can be fun. I've talked to my players about this back when we were running Prince of the Apocalypse, and they do enjoy that occasionally. They enjoy the knowledge that they're going to have a battle, and they are going to rest after the battle. So they enjoy that knowledge of, like, okay, I can unleash all my stuff here. I can really get to my full potential, and that's cool. And there should be opportunities for that, I think. But if you let them long rest after every encounter in the jungle, those encounters become a lot more meaningless. The other option is you have to like scale up all the encounters to make them more challenging, and then I just think you're slowing things down. And yeah, the other thing I did was I basically eliminated the random encounters after a certain amount of time. After we'd gotten like a lot out of it, and we'd basically gotten to like level 5. They got access to the hut. I pretty much all but eliminated most random encounters in the jungles. We'd done plenty by then, but yeah, I think that ended up working out pretty well balance wise to make the jungle more challenging for that tier of play, especially. So is this already on the map level? Yes. I have to spend a lot of time doing dynamic lighting, which I won't take up time on the stream doing that. We're going to call this Mine Tunnel 2. Mine Tunnel 2. Mine Boogaloo. No, you can't see it anyway. Mine Tunnel 2, mine. Wonderful. That's exactly. Mine harder. All of my jokes would be hidden. Curses. My wit goes unappreciated. That's slightly... There's a weird bug with Roll20 where it shows that there's squares here, but if you zoom out, there's actually not. Not sure why that is. So we want to do spider webs in here. We want to create some dynamic lighting. I think this would be a good opportunity for a cool, creepy encounter. And the webs will make everything difficult terrain. Maybe like could have some other rules. What level did you have them start the adventure? Start Tomb of Annihilation. We started at level 1 with new characters, which has been our practice for all the campaign. Well, the only exception was we went from Lost Mine of Phandelver into Princes of the Apocalypse. So we technically started Princes at level 4. But we finished that one. Then we started over with new characters for Storm King's Thunder. Went from 1 to 12 on that one. Where I was actually a player and Chris was the DM. And then with Tomb of Annihilation, we started over with other... Okay, so each one is, think of it like a season of a show. A really long season. With a completely new cast, essentially. So we started at level 1. They are level 6 right now, which feels pretty good. Level 6 for Wormheart Mine and for this section and for all of Frakhamar. And I'm still debating if I want them to get to 7 after Frakhamar or if I want to keep them at 6 until they actually get to Omu. So maybe keep them at 6 for the encounters I have planned from between Frakhamar and Omu, which will be like the Steel Predator, the Revenant Dragon that I'm leaning towards now, as well as wrapping up the Zendala Artist thing. So all of those encounters will need to happen, and I think I'm going to keep them at level 6 for those. We'll see how long it takes them to do all of these sequences. Let's see. I need to go to. Going to search web. I need good quality webs. Good quality web. Frog Warrior. That's, I guess, webbed that came out of that. Gonna get some good quality webs in here. Those are decent webs. Decent webs. So this is the obvious... I'm still not sure what these pillars are here for. I guess they were like... I don't know, doorways, something? I'm not sure what they are. I wish people, when they made maps, didn't create shadows either. Because that infers a light source that I may or may not use. So, pro tip if you're making maps, don't actually put shadows. Even though, you think it looks cool, and it does, but it gets weird if there's no light source, and obviously you can't move the... dynamic lighting is basically the shadows, so having them on the map can be odd looking. What is the best web? Is this the best web? Let's put it on the token layer first. Give me that best web. Oh, dear. This is a very, very light web. Can we tint that web? Nope, that seemingly looks worse. We tint it white. That looks a little better. I need like thick webs, people. Well, that doesn't work. A conversion of a Pathfinder game, which is 6 chapters, so treated as a 6-season mini. Yeah, that's cool. The Pathfinder's definitely set up for that too with the adventure paths. Why not use Phase Spider? It's a little more challenging for level 6 party. Phase Spiders. I could. I don't think I've actually used Phase Spiders before. Phase Spiders. Let's see. Is it under P for Phase or S for Spider? Let's find out. Probably S for Spider. If I were organizing the book, so I would do it. Scarecrow, Shadow, Shambling Mound, Shield Guardian, Skeleton, Slide. Lots of slides. Vectors, Androfinks, Sprite. Wait, where the hell is a spider? Shit. I guess it's not under. Nope, I went from Sprite to Sturge. Curses! Spiders are not organized together. How dare they? Let's see. Oni, Pudding. Wait, Ooze. Orcs. Owlbear. God damn it. How many times have I looked through this book? Piercer. Those are always good too. Some classic like underground creatures could work. I could shove a purple worm at them. That would be fun. Where the hell is Phase Spider? Alright, table of contents. Somebody give me a page number. Page, thank God, 334. Jesus. This stream is just me looking through pages of a book. Oh, okay. It's under the freaking beast section. Damn it. I would never have found that. Phase Spider. It's just a giant spider with the ethereal jaunt ability, right? I guess it has slightly better stats, which is the it's not a teleport, but it shifts into the so basically it just shifts out of the world. It's just gone as a bonus action, and then it can just pop back in and attack. That's a pain in the ass. I mean, I could. It feels like they're more appropriate to some kind of like magical leak or something. I don't know. And there is a thing in here. I just think undead spiders and things would be more thematic and suitable to the campaign, and kind of tells a little bit of a story because they see a bunch of zombies in here, and maybe they've forgotten the fact that beasts can become undead as well. So the fact that they then have to contend with undead spiders, I think I like that. What I am leaning towards, however, is doing like a mama spider, because you know, if there's one good, he's gonna lean over and grab more books. If there's one good trope I like about spiders in fantasy RPGs, is that there's always a bigger spider, right? Like, there's always just a huge queen spider. Like, you fight a lot of the little spiders, and you think they're getting big and nasty, and all of a sudden there's the biggest damn spider you've seen. And the Tomb of Beasts, which I reference occasionally, has some cool spiders, including a giant like tarantula one. Which, the only weird thing about the Tomb of Beasts by Kobold Press is that they kind of swing the other way when it comes to balancing. A lot of D&D creatures tend to have lower hit points than I think, and they end up dying a lot faster than what I realize. And I think Kobold Press realized this and swings the pendulum a little too hard the other way. So, for example, this is a fucking spider that has an armor class of 18 and 75 average hit points. That's a little crazy. Why the hell would a spider have 18 armor class? I mean, you could rule that it's like dodging around or whatever, but it's still a big-ass like, tarantula-looking spider, so I would probably change that. But the nice thing is it is stronger, it has a more powerful attack, so you could just use a similar stat block to paint the picture of this is an even bigger, worse spider. Especially if I start like throwing swarms at them, and then bigger spiders, and then do the mama spider at the end of the little tunnel. I think that could be a really neat encounter. Use the Cave Fisher from Volos. Volos is the one I am least familiar with, honestly. I actually don't even have that book. Let's see, Volos. But I will look it up. You'd think I would have all the books, but you would be wrong. I don't have Volos, and I don't have the, what is the Sword Coast Adventures Guide either. I think those are the only ones that I lack. I should have gotten Volos. Let's see, what was it called? Cave Fisher? Bestiary. Cave Fisher. I'm open to ideas this session. This is a widely open planning session. And what sucks is that they're about to like get into these caves, so I gotta have this stuff planned. Oh, that's creepy looking. Sticky filament? What is this thing? A subterranean arachnid. Oh, that's perfect. With a long snout that houses spinnerets, enabling the creature to produce sticky filament, much like the strands of a spider's webbing, which the creature uses to snag prey. Okay. There's valuable innards. Huh. Creature shies away from attacking prey unless they come across a solitary target. They're medium. I do like their stat block though. AC 16, average hit points of 58. Now we're talking. Because honestly, giant spiders are kind of low-level creatures, right? It seems like a classic low-level foe. A lot of giant beasts are that way. Giant spider is one of the stronger ones, but yeah, armor class 14, hit points 26. It's a CR1. That's a pretty low-level creature. So I like this one. This one has better stats. Because I could probably still use undead spiders as the like giant spider stat block and the swarm spiders as minions. And then probably use this cave fisher stat block maybe as the queen, which has been also undeadified. Everybody's undead in here. It's just this place is lousy with undead. Cave fisher makes 2 attacks with its claws. Plus 5 to hit. Doesn't do poison damage, which is interesting. Does 10 damage, or it can use filament. One creature grappled by the cave fisher's adhesive filament. Is that something it can do? Cave fisher can use its action to extend a sticky filament up to 60 feet. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So it spits out. Filament can be attacked. It can stick weapons to it also. Alright. I could probably just straight up use this thing then. So if I want to undeadify it, all it does is give it... everybody would have undead fortitude. So spiders with undead fortitude could be an interesting challenge. As well as give them poison immunity. They're already pretty slow. The cave fisher at least is 20 feet. I don't think I'd make it slower than that. And lower its dexterity, which would lower its armor class by a bit. But I think keep all the hit points. I may actually up the giant spiders' hit points just a little bit, just because they are pretty low. But maybe with the swarms, that'll be good enough. So that'll be one big, basically series of encounters in here. These are tinted. Oh, they default white. That's... So if I darken them, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Kind of do things like that, maybe. Make it so that they see the tunnel. Maybe I'd put like half a dead body in here or something. Like I wanted to note the fact that it's like a dangerous area while they go in, and I want to create that creepiness and just have this place be utterly covered in webbing, just everywhere. Spellcasting smart spider. Aren't smart spiders just ettercaps? I don't remember how the ettercap thing worked, but those were like humanoid spider things. Let's make that. Big ass webs. Big ass webs, people. So big. Horrendously big. Any arachnophobes out there? I'm not a fan of spiders. My thing with spiders is entirely size related. If it's like quarter size or smaller, I'm okay. If it's bigger than a quarter, I'm less okay. We don't have a whole lot of spiders around here, though. We occasionally get like wolf spiders, which are kind of freaky because they can get kind of big. That's kind of a good spot there. Painting webs in the caves. Webs everywhere. I mean, it kind of looks bad that it's going off, but I'm going to draw the dynamic lighting so they won't be able to tell all these little spill-offs. There's a swarm of sturges. Why would the sturges be coordinating with undead spiders? I've got swarms of spiders. And that's the nice thing about this area is I can easily unleash spiders from anywhere around them. I will definitely take advantage of that. I haven't decided if I want to do like just one big combat situation or a bunch of little ones. You know, if it were a video game, I feel like it would be balanced for like a lot of little combat situations here and there. But because the way D&D works and that combat slows things down, you almost want to be more committed to combat. Once everybody's like really rolling initiative and we're buckling down, it's like, well, do I just sit here and like add, you know, just continuously add more threats and creatures and keep everybody in initiative order? That's a tricky situation. But I will paint zombies in here. There'll be cocoons. Look at this. You're like, hell no, I'm not going in there. And then probably the queen up here. This is the biggest space. It's kind of like the boss room. I could either just seal this off or maybe put some treasure in here for him or something. I'm not sure what all these weird little pillars are for. I know what they are. They're to support the cave. When you're opening a cave, you gotta have fucking supports, don't you? To raise the cave up. That's what they are. So I probably won't worry about actually making those sight blockers then. Because that would be kind of a weird... Hell, I don't know. I don't know if that would be interesting or if that would just look bad because they're so tiny on this map. Giant spiders feed on giant bugs. Ah, yeah. The idea here is that they were feeding on the kobolds of the area, but once the death curse hit, everybody became zombies, and at that point, ecology and logic kind of go out the window if everybody's a zombie. I think. Zombie, zombie. Let's put you right there. And I would just tell the players, no matter what you see visually, every area is just webbing, so everything is going to be, it's all going to be difficult terrain. Maybe, I don't know if there's any good, like, obscuring rules that wouldn't be too much of a pain in the butt, but that would help make things interesting and thematic with the way that these webs are set up. I could look at doing something like that. I have to remember to put all of these on the actual go away map layer. Damn it. Oh, I can't rotate it. Things in the way. Oh my goodness. Alright, won't rotate you then. Put you over here somewhere. And I'll need to make a custom spider, undead spider. It needs to be rubble. How far can I let them get before they realize they have to turn back? Ah, there's already rubble here. So I could have this whole area be like a giant cave-in. Or if I've got similar rocks I can use. Let's search for rocks. Show me rocks. There we go. There's some rubble-looking rocks. It could work. It looks like decently matching. Is that really the only one I've got? Pretty much. Just copy and paste that. Alas, our way forward has been blocked. You fools. A cave-in. You have to double back. I like that idea. Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult terrain. So, this will be one hazard, essentially, is they travel up here. There's a cave-in, and then they will have to double back. Unless they want to on their own, just decide to explore this area, they could. And they'll realize later that they had to. Literally railroading them through this very scary dungeon area. And I'll have to determine if I want to do a bunch of little skirmishes or just kind of bring up the horror aspect and the chittering and all that. Maybe have like one major encounter with some swarms and maybe a giant spider or two, and then get to the maybe get to the end one that has like, it's like, oh no, the giant spiders are actually minions, not the boss of this area. I think that could be pretty cool. So we'll use the swarms of spiders, the giant spider, but I'll have to make an undead version, and then the I'll probably use that cave fisher, which I'll have to create that stat block because it's not in here, for the actual spider queen. And maybe even make that, I don't know if I want to make that huge or not. Well, it's a medium, so if I make it large, it's already bigger than what it normally is. Although giant spiders are a large. Ooh, I don't know if I can actually use giant spiders much in here. If they're large, they wouldn't be able to fit very well. Well, spiders can fit. There'd be like holes all over the ceilings and caves that could come in and out of. I do like that idea. And there'll be zombies, so there'll still be zombies like caught in the webbing and stuff that could provide, one of them could get free, or could provide just almost environmental hazard, as if they get near them, they attack, even though the zombies are kind of trapped in the webbing. What is the rule for webbing? Is that an escape DC? Let's see, giant spider. A target is restrained by webbing as an action the restrained target can make. So they are restrained. So, restrained means you are a 0 speed, you've got disadvantage on dex saving throws, and you have advantage. You have disadvantage on your attacks, and attacks against you have advantage. So any zombies that are actually restrained will be pretty much fodder to being attacked. But if they're around while the spiders are also attacking, that could make things more interesting. So they would probably be mostly an environmental hazard. I wonder if... I guess the undead spiders wouldn't be able to actually use the webbing, but I could almost, during combat, make the players roll... Well, it's not a saving throw, is it? So web is actually an attack roll for the spider, because they shoot you with a web. Versus, like, I'm picturing like a saving throw of just trying to walk through webbing and not being restrained. Would undead spiders use their webbing? Probably. Just to make things more interesting. undead don't use tools, but would they innately use their own biological functions? Interesting. I haven't decided at all if I want to make this the only encounter, or if I want to also use other maps and add other encounters. Because like I said, there's not going to be any long rests. This is purely a bit of a gauntlet to get to Hrakamar. I know the final encounter will probably be meeting the albino dwarves. I should have a little bit of that. Maybe Musharib can shed some light on what's going on in here. Because it says if the characters travel within 10 miles of the forge, normally this would be outside, but I could put them in the tunnel. 4 albino dwarf warriors spot and approach them. Their spokesperson is blunt-talking Scythy Vinecutter, who lays out the problem and proposes the solution: kill the fire newts who've taken over our forge. As a result, each character will be allowed to take 21-pound ingots of refined adamantine from the forge. And the dwarves... Ooh, one thing I could do is if they reclaim the forge, I could allow them to maybe forge some of their armor into like a mithril adamantine or something. That'd be a cool reward. Dwarves lead them on the location of a crashed flying boat from some far-off land. They've already done that one. The dwarves offer to stand guard outside while the characters rid Hrakamar of fire newts. Yeah, and the idea is they've been pushed into the tunnels, and they're kind of trapped because they know they can't go further into the tunnels because... because they met the undead spiders, and the tunnel was collapsed. So they couldn't escape that way. Maybe... or maybe they collapsed the tunnel because the kobolds were going to hit them, so they collapsed it, but then this tunnel was also untenable to go through. So the albino dwarves have been trapped in like one section of this tunnel, which wouldn't be on this battle map. I don't think. I would just have this be an event where they essentially meet them and can tell them more about the situation. Musharib can obviously... it's revealed that not all the albino dwarfs are pacifists. It's pretty much just Musharib's, because he's like a druid version. We'll get the actual official mission for Hrakamar. Because I believe when they first arrive, there are trapped or enslaved dwarves, albino dwarves. This is a cool map. Yep, right here at the entrance. So they come in here in this way with the minecart leading up. It's really narrow here. And then to the left, they actually see the captured remains that they've been unable to free because of the heavy fire newt presence here. The surface, actually light coming down there. It's a neat map, but it's just fire newts. Lots and lots of fire newts. There are a few fire newt warlocks, but it's really cool because the lava. They do have giant striders. I forget. They actually... The picture shows them mounted, but I think this is supposed to be just a giant strider, and then you can actually mount them on the giant strider if you want to. More about swarms of guys. So the idea is, I don't think this area is particularly difficult. Fire newts are not very... Yeah, CR half. Although AC 16 and 22 hit points is pretty solid, and they have multi-attack. So that's... That's interesting. Seems pretty strong. They can also spit fire, like once per battle, and they can mount on their giant striders. Yeah, they are coming through at level 6. So I wasn't gonna actually scale up this dungeon much. The only thing I would do is maybe replace more of the warriors with the warlocks because they're more powerful. CR1 instead of CR half. They can shoot fireball. Actually, they're just like ranged versions of the fire newts, I guess. They do gain... Well, do they have spells? Oh, never mind, they do have spells. They have Flaming Sphere and Scorching Ray. And Burning Hands. Alright. So I may replace a few more, because I think spellcasters are always interesting. But this one definitely has the feel of, like, you come in, once you start a fight, you are fighting this whole damn dungeon. And it gets pretty nuts. So I'm hoping that... I think it will be challenging in a way. Even though it's a bunch of little guys, that can still be challenging. It's a different kind of balancing fight versus the dragon, which is obviously one big creature. But I do hope the tunnels can drain them a little bit of their resources and provide that kind of proper like encounter to encounter dungeon crawl. But I think this will be mostly like one big fight situation. If you notice, I haven't actually prepped Rakamar at all. This is just how it is set up from Tomb of Annihilation, because I've been working on those mine things. I expect we'll make it to Rakamar, hopefully by the end of next session, but I don't think we'll actually get here. I think I really want to make the whole tunnel crawl pretty much the whole session for tomorrow. So definitely the undead spider encounter. I haven't decided if that's going to be the only encounter, and I want to try to include another one. I will have to make that decision, obviously, by tomorrow. But I'll have to look up and see maybe some carrion crawlers, do some fun like insect stuff that could still be endemic to the area. But I definitely like the undead spider stuff, so that will be a fun little gauntlet for them to make it through there. And I think that will do it for this week's Crafting Annihilation. Thank you all for joining me for the stream. If you like the content, do check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. I'll be here streaming tomorrow. I'll do my episode 2 of my Let's Play for Bard's Tale 4 tomorrow afternoon, and then tomorrow evening, of course, will be our D&D Tomb of Annihilation session. I will see you then for that.